Hello, everyone. Welcome once again to a Wednesday webinar. We have some great wisdom this week from the Youth Dem, from the Radical Youth Space for Educations, who are a really incredible youth group that are reaching out to all sorts of groups around the UK and all around the world, international solidarity, and trying to look at a lot of different ways that we're organised and how we can change things from the younger folks' perspectives. And we always, one of the things of climate medicine is get the elders and the youngers together and learn from each other. So without too much further ado, over to Roma. Thank you very much for coming. Tell us about your great work at RYSE. Over.
Hello. So yes, I'm Roma. I use she, her pronouns, and I'm coming to you from Stroud. I've just finished. Baby's been put to bed, but so that's all good. So yeah, the RYSE, the Radical Youth Space for Educations. I'll try not to talk too fast. This is definitely one of the problems I have. So if anyone needs me to slow down, please just pop a message in the chat and I will do my best. So I found the RYSE when it was a year old, when I was 18 and I'd just finished my A-levels. And I came to a summer camp where they were bringing people together that had attended residentials over the winter period to reflect on those residentials and the action that it had caused. It was really, really amazing. And it I just finished a politics A-level and I was so fucking bored with the way that I was being told that politics had to be done. And facing the climate crisis and feeling like there wasn't anyone talking about that, even though we were doing environmental international politics. There just wasn't any conversation about the fact this was an actual issue. So yeah, we have 4 strands of work, and I'm basically going to use those 4 strands to talk us through the history of the RYSE, and then I'm going to take us through the educational pillars, the things that that define how we do education, what we do education about. And yeah, then I'm going to talk a bit about what's next for the RYSE, because we're in a moment of shifting our focus slightly as we go into the new year. Does that sound good?
That sounds
good. So
cool.
The first of the strand is obviously radical education. The light flickering, is that bothering anyone else, or is that just on my screen?
I can cope with that, but
cool, fine. So we stand quite strongly in the legacies of Paulo Freire, who was a Brazilian peasant educator throughout the 1960s and 70s. If you are interested in radical education, I'd really recommend his work, Pedagogy of the Oppressed, but I'd recommend reading it, and then I don't actually know how to do that.
Roma,
so if you can cope with it, that would be good. Wait, hold on.
The light, maybe bring the brightness down. Yeah, blur. Oh, I want to learn that skill. Just to say, if there's anyone else from RYSE here who could post stuff in the chat that Roma's talking about, I want to learn about Paulo Freire and other things. It really helps me put the notes out afterwards. So any websites mentioned, if anyone can find them and put them in the chat, that would really help. Thank you.
Well, if Danny's doing the washing up, I can definitely make a list of the things I'm mentioning and send them to you afterwards as well. Cool. Then also Highlander Folk School, which is this really incredible school that's was embedded in the what's called labor movement in the 30s in America. So it's in Tennessee, and then also was embedded within the civil rights movement and was instrumental in the learnings of that movement being documented. So there's a really, really rich history of radical education. There's this really amazing quote by Miles Horton, who is the founder or co-founder of Highlander Folk School, which is, if I had to define what would make a good education, a good radical education, it would be loving people first, which is, I think it's actually on the website. It's my quote under my little bio kind of thing, because it just education that is loving and hearing people, and then building together for action that changes everyone's lives is just yeah, that's the thing with radical education, is that it doesn't end in oh, that's kind of interesting. The point is that we learn to transform the world, and we learn together to transform the world. So some of the education that we've been doing, like we've run so many workshops, just so many. Like we did a couple on like Stroud and Gloucestershire's specific complicity in the arms trade last Peace Lotus Day, which is the 30th of April, which I'll talk a little bit in a minute when I talk about our internationalism. We did, before I joined, there was the 2 residentials. They were on radical lands and legacies, which was on the reclamation of ancestry and how we can stand in our ancestors as we like try and move forward to changing the world, and how we can hold that power with us in a way that like guides us really, really well. And action and imagination, which is like, I mean, I wasn't there for that, but it is like, I've ran a short workshop from it where we basically like get people to design actions using loads of random bits of paper that say like random things like 30 tractor tires on it. It's a really good time. But yeah, I've seen education, like the educational work of taking a group full of people that have different experiences, and then you identify, like I've seen it take a group of people from not knowing where they agree and not knowing each other to really understanding each other and being able to take action. And it's that like from people's experience to identifying the patterns to then working out how we can change things that is so fundamental to radical education. The second thread is building community. So when the RYSE was first founded, it was founded as a like, the original people that founded it moved to Stroud to build community there. Robin, one of the original founders, who also founded XR Youth, so some of you might know him.
Yeah.
He love Robin. He is from Stroud, so he has a very rich community here. And so yeah, we have our community of place, which is we hosted for ages and ages monthly Friends of the RYSE dinners, where we would make everyone food and then run a workshop or have an open discussion on a topic. We also, one of the first things I did was I started a campaign in Stroud called School as a Crime Scene, which is where I'd just obviously left school and I'd been like told I was smart, but also like socially pretty maligned in school. So I had a bit of a rough time. And then we like outreached into the community and brought together loads of people that were struggling with school for different reasons. And we did consciousness raising education. And so now there's just this like really sick group of kids locally who have like realized that school's really fucked up. And the ways that it entrenches the power dynamics that are currently causing like the earth to die, and tells them that they can't change anything, and teaches them a way of looking at the world that is intensely individualist. And so yeah, we kind of learned all of that together. We did like twice weekly sessions for like 6 months together as a kind of campaign / educational program. And then just this spring, we kind of seeded something called Mutiny, which is the like Stroud's Youth Assembly. We think it's probably the first youth assembly in at least a very, very long time in Stroud. So some of you might be familiar with like people's or citizens' assemblies. This is a community assembly of the youth of Stroud. We had our first assembly in July. And then we've just recently had a like strategy assembly. How are we going to build towards the next assembly, which is probably going to be in April. And that is work that like came out of the RYSE, but due to bringing in lots and lots of interest locally and new organisers, has actually been able to separate out and kind of stand on its own 2 legs, which is just really incredible. And then we have our community of affinity, which is our other form of building community. And these are the people who we are aligned with on a like national and international scale. So this kind of comes in 2 strands of work mainly. So we have maybe 3. We have the Prela network, which I believe Prela have done one of these webinars.
Yeah, great webinar with Kabina, fantastic.
Yeah, Kabina's great. So like, I think that'll be on the YouTube channel, so you guys can go back and watch that for a far better explanation than whatever I'm about to do. But yeah, Prela is the Planet Repairs Action Learning Educational Revolution, and it is, I mean, it's many things, but it is kind of chiefly a program of work which is connecting organisers from different communities of resistance together to form like practical solidarity networks, and also learning together. I will probably talk a bit later about the Decolonial Open University that happened this autumn that we were like very much a part of. We helped organise the event in Bristol that happened, and we went along to quite a lot of things to kind of share and ground in learnings together with organisers. When I'm just talking about it, let's just go. With organisers from the Fen Mocarina Women's Union in Peru, and Radio Zapote, which is a, I mean, you mentioned you're in Mexico City. Radio Zapote is based in the university there. It is out of an occupation, and it's a community radios project that are like, just like really, really incredible. And the organisers there face such like incredible like state repression, and they're still so strong, and listening to them talk, like, I don't even know if I have the words. Like, it was just the most intensely like grounding and moving experience, and something that I will never forget. Then our community affinity also currently looks like we're looking to, as the year progresses, start a network of radical educators in the UK who, like, particularly young ones, to like pool learnings and knowledges, and also allow us to do education in places that are not just the southwest, because obviously Stroud is very much in Gloucestershire, and like sometimes we've had requests from education from like Edinburgh or London, and these places are just like actually quite difficult to get to. Well, London's kind of fine, but Edinburgh's quite difficult to get to. So yeah, having people that we can pull on, that's the other part of our affinity community. And yeah, this also brings me very neatly into our third point, which is youth activism. So the RYSE comes out of like in the legacy of XR Youth and XR Youth Solidarity, and the really incredible activism that went on around that. From that, it became really, really clear that the revolutionary power that we need right now is in the young people. And you see this like particularly internationally. I think our youth here definitely have a bit of like an apathy thing going on, which is quite difficult to contend with, and is one of the forces that we're trying to push against. But that's like, yeah, you see like revolutionary youth like in the Chilean like Penguin Revolution, which I'm trying to remember the name of the documentary, but anyway, was like this revolution of school children who were like fighting against the conditions in the schools and the potential that their schools were going to be made private. And then this kind of snowballed as these young people kind of aged up through like high school into university, when their fees were really high, and then as they became adults and they were just like economically really, really fucked, it just like catalyzed this revolution, because you had these people that were picking up organizing skills as they like aged through, and this like incredible power of the young people there. And there's also this documentary that I can't remember the name of. I'll write down these documentaries.
Roma, is it called One Fine Day?
No, but I'm gonna write that down for my own watching.
If anyone can find a link to the Penguin Revolution, that's a new one on me in Chile. I'd like to see that. There's a few. It's this incredible information. Thank you. Keep going. Really.
Yeah. I'm really sorry that I haven't got links ready. I definitely should have done that, but that's okay. We move. And then like in Brazil, like 10 years ago now, they had all of these occupations in the high schools where they like this really big network formed of all of these high school students that they were thinking the government was saying, we're just going to shut all of these high schools, and so in protest the students like occupied the fucking high schools, and it's just so cool, and watching that like revolutionary fire of youth that says like I've been like growing up, I've been told that the world is a certain way, I've found out that it's not, and I'm seeing the like incredible harms happen, and I don't have this idea that it's just how the world is, and I'm going to hold on to that, and I'm going to use it to make the world a better place. And I'm going, just to like hold that feeling of injustice, that fire, with two hands, and say, no, I'm not putting up with this. Like, I'm going to do something about this. So yes, youth activism. We also really want to embed this institution we're trying to build in service of the youth movement. So in the same way that Highlander was in service of the labour movement and then the civil rights movement, we want to be in service to the youth movement, to look at and engage with what is the learning that is going to make this movement truly, truly powerful in the way that it needs to be for the times we're in right now. The fourth point is reclaiming space. So we're not called the Radical Youth Space of Educations for no reason. Disenfranchisement of the youth from space is a huge, huge problem. There has been and is a concerted campaign, particularly from Conservatives, but just generally, to remove young people from public spaces because we are seen as like a nuisance. There is like massive prejudice towards the culture and the counterculture of young people. And so reclaiming and taking space is really, really vitally important to any movement, but to a youth movement in particular, because of how maligned we are from spaces. We have been able to hold some really, really incredible spaces. So I'm just going to talk you through a bit of a history of them now. So when we first started, we were working out of the Trinity Rooms, which, if anyone knows Stroud, go and check out the Trinity Rooms. Their community cafe on Friday is just the absolute loveliest. But they let us have the hall for free. It's this wonderful, wonderful town village hall. And that was where we did those 2 residentials that I mentioned, and where we've hosted all of the Friends of the RYSE dinners and countless workshops. It's where we hosted the youth assembly in July. I just shout out to the Trinity Rooms, to be honest. Then we had a space which was rented to us for a small amount of money, which was basically just this 1-room basement with a little kitchen in the corner and a toilet. And it was amazing. It had this like little garden outside, a little stream, and it was just like, we put stuff all over the walls. And this is where like Spoils of Crime Scene was first hosted. And we had it, like, the way I really like to think about almost every space we've had is it turns into a youth living room for the young people of Stroud. So there's like sofas, there's a library. We have a library, it's called the CLIT, which is the Community Library of Insurrectionary Texts. I'm really proud of whoever came up with that. And when the tenancy finished on the basement, which was really sad, we, along with some friends that we brought in from the Affinity Network nationally, took a squat in this incredible old Gothic spiritualist church in the centre of Stroud. And Danny, if you are off doing the washing up, could you find a link to one of the things about the squat? Thank you. If you're not, that's all fine too. And yeah, we held a summer school last August, where we had like 3-4 days programmed of events a week, and we did film screenings, workshops, we did a community cafe, and it just like brought in this just incredible energy because we had this space that was ours and we could just customize it. Yeah, we put stuff all over the walls. We had like these really massive round tables that we did workshops at, and a much bigger kitchen than the other space, so we could do actual community meals and stuff. And it was really, really wonderful. And after that month of hosting it as a summer school, we shut the summer school and then we held it as a squat for an additional 2 months, as a like workspace / living room for the youth, running a couple workshops here and there. But then it eventually was, we lost it in court, and due to mainly capacity reasons, but practicalities, we chose not to resist an eviction. So we moved out, and then for the last year, so this was last November, it was actually the 1 year anniversary of the move out, like 3 days ago, which was a bit sad, to like see that space that we had, and it was so powerful, and then we lost it. We have been working mainly out of Trinity rooms again, so just big up to Trinity rooms, to be honest. So yeah, space is really, really important to any organization, particularly one seeking to be an institution, and particularly one seeking to create spaces for young people to experiment, to learn, to ground together, and to take action from. Where am I going now? Yes, now I was going to take people through the pillars. Sorry, this is quite structural, like just taking you through a list of things, but I hope you find it interesting.
It's really incredibly interesting. Just to give you a quick bit of feedback, it's super inspiring for us, our older activists of 35 years, to hear your enthusiasm and also your knowledge going back to the Highlander Folk School and Martin Luther King and the civil rights, and examples from Chile and Brazil. Amazing. And to Stroud, keep doing it. Next generation coming on strong. Really inspiring. Keep going.
Thank you. Yes, so the pillars we have, I should have worn my hoodie, what an idiot. We have excellent hoodies, and the hoodies have the pillars on the back. So the pillars are trust the young people, so this goes hand in hand with the space thing. Fundamentally, our society tells young people that we don't know what's best for us, and we aren't to be trusted. We just have to cede our power to the adults, to the teachers, to our parents. And fundamentally, when you're told this enough times, you start to believe it, and you start to give over agency and power. And so a really important part of our work is grounding with the young people we work with in like radical trust and moving at the speed of trust, and yeah, working together to create things. And when like we just did the mutiny strategy assembly, as I mentioned, and that was a moment where there was like some people in the room who had lots of experience doing strategy and designing programs of work, and then there were some people who this was the first time they'd even thought like this, and we held all of those ideas as equal, because the point is that we need to trust each other to have good ideas, and we need to trust each other to like critique and edit and change and all of those things. So yes, radical trust in the young people, and this is particularly an ask for like olders. We have a workshop which is how to be a good older, and this is kind of the main thing, like trust us, and also yeah, just fucking trust us. Anyway, there's just so much in our whole society that tells people that youth do not know what's good for them, and that's just so wrong, because we just spend our whole time telling our kids like just go to school and benefit you and your all of these things, and like you just undermine their consent again and again and again, because you don't trust them to know their own bodies and to know their experience. So yes, anyway. Our next one is popular education, which is similar to radical education and collective learning. So there's this incredible Zapatista quote, which is between all of us we know everything, and the full quote is between all of us we know everything we need to know, but it's funny when you just finish it at everything. I just love that quote. I think there's something about it that is just so like, it comes in line with that trust thing. Is that me that's making that noise?
Something went funny on your audio. Is that your audio? That might be you. If not, could be. I'll check others. That's stopped now. Is that you?
I don't think it was me.
All right. Let me have a look down the participants. It might be someone who's not muted who's come in. You keep going. I'll have a look for anyone who's not.
Cool.
Muted.
Thank you.
Carry on.
So yeah, that thing I mentioned earlier about radical education, where you start from people's experience and you notice the patterns, and then you overlay thanks George, and you overlay like any existing theory, and you talk about how that existing framework fits into people's experience and all of those things, and then you act. Like that's a really, really key part. I think I already mentioned it. Like the point is that we do education so we can act together. And then you come back and it's this spiral, and you come back and you reflect on people's experience of acting and how that was, and then you go again, and it's just this like, we learn collectively, because everyone has really, really incredible experience and knowledge and insight, and then we act collectively, and then we reflect collectively, and through that you kind of break down the hierarchy that exist in a classroom, where you have the teacher who like knows everything, they're the only one with any worth, they just tell you the things and you have to remember it. And then the students who don't know anything, they don't have any worth. It's like you're pouring, I mean, the analogy that's often used both by people that agree with this and the people that don't is the empty vessel thing, which is where the teacher has a vessel that's full. I'm actually not going to pour this, hold on. The teacher has a vessel that's full and the student has a vessel that's empty, and the teacher has to pour into the student. But this totally like undermines the student's agency, passions, experience, and also expects the student to be like, thank you so much, Danny, for being on the link game. Anyway, this also expects the teacher to be like all knowing and to never make mistakes and to never reflect. And it's like, actually, isn't it so much more powerful if we come together and see each other as like student teachers and teacher students, and we see like the classroom not as a like hierarchical thing, but as a state of learning collectively, where the teacher or the facilitator gets to say, I didn't know that, let's work that out together, let's do some research and come back to the center. And like, it's just, it would be so incredible to do education in those ways that are like actually generative for everyone involved, rather than like, I don't know, maybe there are some teachers in here, maybe you have some thoughts on that, but like we have been working with a really incredible group of teachers to like, who have also found that classroom to be a really like oppressive and harmful place to be for them as well, because of what they're forced to do to the kids, what they're forced to like do to themselves. Like the teachers are just like chronically overworked and not paid enough money and all of these things, and it's because they're like, anyway, there's just hierarchy after hierarchy, and just like, we can make the classroom a space of liberation, but fundamentally it's not right now because of those hierarchies and because of what's taught. And anyway, I'm just on the soapbox, so
That's good, it's good. Big up the circular education. Yeah,
am I going too fast? Should I slow down? Like, I can talk slower kind of thing. Just checking in.
I'm okay, but I'm a fast speaker. How's the rest of the group feel? Would you want to put anything in the chat? Is that okay? Keep going. I think you're generally all right. You're sharing a lot of really powerful and useful and evolutionary information.
Thank you.
A lot to share. Keep going.
The next one is one that Phoenix, I think, mentioned at the start, which is intergenerational solidarity. So like, we have this like incredible group of elders who we've been working with for the last 2 years now, who have been delving into the question of like, what does eldership mean, and in the fact that like quite a lot of societies that aren't this one have elders, which are like community pillars, and so what does it mean to like become an elder, what does it mean to be an older, and like what is the liberatory intergenerational relationship that allows us to have tension with each other, to challenge each other, and then to move forward into action together. Because there is like huge amounts of experience in the elders around us that like I don't have, but then if they're always talking to me like in a patronizing way, I'm not going to listen to them. And also then they're totally undermining the fact that I might have insights and ideas that, because they're like, they have a certain way of doing things, they're not going. So it's about integrating those things and having honest conversations where you can have tension but work through it into spaces that create more liberation. And speaking of things that have tension, grounding in our radical history. So we're told a version of Western history or British history which is so aligned with the upper classes, and I'm probably preaching to the choir here, but like, we're given this inheritance of like empires and kings and aristocracy, but like, actually, like, that's not what my ancestors were doing. Like, my ancestors were like engineers and nurses, and if I want to, I can take on, I can choose to stand in the lineage of like the diggers and Stroud moment, the Stroud water rioters, which was 1825. There was riots throughout Stroud where they took the mill owner and they threw him in his pond because like he wasn't paying them enough and they were working in horrible conditions. And now the local grammar school is named after the guy that got thrown in the pond, but not a single one of those water rioters is memorialized anywhere. And so there's a huge injustice in that, but we can choose to stand in that power and that ancestry. And that also means that like we ground in our radical roots that are specific to land, but we can also ground in our ancestry that like is of learning. And we can say like Sylvia Pankhurst, I believe her to be an ancestor of mine, not like through, I'm not related to her, but like through the work, the incredible internationalist work that she did, and the like challenging of the white feminist movement at the time. That shit's incredible. And like Thomas Sankara and his revolutionary work in Burkina Faso and the way he was so adamant about women's liberation and the liberation of Africa, like that is an ancestry that I want to take on. And so I want to ground in that and sit in that and truly understand what that means, and what that means for how I want to be living my life. But yeah, it's immensely powerful. And yeah, those, just to bring that particular rant to a close, the three types of ancestors of lineage. So like my great uncle who started some of the unions at the local engineering company. My great uncle, my great granddad, what am I talking about? Anyway, of learning. So Sylvia Pankhurst, Thomas Sankara, people who I've learned from, and land. So that would be the Stroud water rioters. A lot of days, I walk down the Stroud Canal, and that is a path that the water rioters took when they marched from their workplaces to the home of the mill owner and threw him in the pond. Just such a good moment, to be honest. Then the fifth educational pillar is planet repairs. So I mentioned this earlier when I talked us through the PRALA acronym, and I'm sure that there is a better explanation of planet repairs on their CEC talk. But planet repairs is a concept that comes out of African reparations movement in the International Social Movement for African Reparations, particular from Esther Koze and Kofi Malawi Klu, who are like two just incredible reparationists. They're based in London. Danny, if you're still on the link hype, could you post something from maybe the talk that Esther did on what reparations means for XR youth, potentially? But also if you're not on the link hype, that is fine. But planet repairs is kind of the like nexus and overlap of the like three different kinds of justice. So cognitive, which is the like decolonization of our minds and the ways that we're thinking, and our education system, and the like what is considered true knowledge, and the thought patterns and psychological like how do I want to put this, like the psychological trappings of colonialism. And then reparatory justice, which is, I mean, reparations has been a big topic in the news recently, but the way that reparations is defined by many of the Pan-Africanist organisers that we have had the absolute privilege of learning from and working with, it is about more than the monetary side of it. It is about the holistic process of repair that takes you from the like recognition of the harm that has gone on, so they're like actually acknowledging that like the UK did and still does massively benefit from the exploitation and death of peoples in Africa across the continent, and then it takes you to stopping the harm. And so this is like actually, like, the imperialism in Africa is ongoing. The mines that are in the DRC that are causing like mass death and violence over there, like, that is still ongoing. And whilst that is still ongoing, repair is literally impossible because the harm is still happening. It then takes you to changing things structurally so that things cannot repeat. Non-repetition is a really, really important part of how, like, I've heard Esther Cose conceptualize reparations, is that it's like, it doesn't really mean anything if you are not changing the structures that allowed that harm to happen in the first place. So yeah, changing what international politics looks like, changing what international justice systems look like, and fundamentally redressing the imbalance of power that allowed that violence to happen in the first place. And then the third type of justice is environmental justice. So that is the like, well, I don't think I maybe need to define it on this call. It is the healing of the earth and the stopping of exploitative modes of capitalism and the stopping of the exploitation of the earth. Together with those three types of justice, planet repairs is the way that we find a path back to Mother Earth and to our collective liberation. Very, very connected to planet repairs is the sixth pillar, which is internationalism. So we sit at the core of an imperial system, and this is a global system that is built for and on destruction and exploitation, and the only way that this can possibly be countered is by a global family of resistance that is in contact with each other practically and like what is the word? Practically and through learning together, that will band together and resist imperialism. And so this is like, internationalism cannot be a one-way charity thing, because actually all of our liberation is bound up in all of us working together to counter the global capitalist violence. And so this is where, like, the Decolonial Open University, like I mentioned, where we had a chance to meet with organisers from the Fen Mokorina, from Radio Zapote, from the economic freedom fighters in South Africa.
I'd love web links to various of these ones you're mentioning later, and whoever can find them as you're talking, pop them in. This is dynamite. Great networking, amazing.
There's a zine that got written for the Decolonial Open University that has information on all of these groups in, that I can send you the PDF of, which should have then also QR codes to take you to other places. I'll write that down as a thing. Thank you. And I think it's like, so let me get back in the flow. So the internationalism that is like practical solidarity links, that means that we will be working together, and that means that when someone gets touched, when someone gets exploited, when someone gets harmed, all of us respond, and all of us work together to make sure that that doesn't happen again, and that there is the ability to prepare from that. And then the last point is action learning. So I've already mentioned this cycle of learning where you ground together, you identify crossover, and then you go into action, and then you reflect. And fundamentally, like, I mean, it's practice, right? Theory or praxis, either in isolation, is just like actually not going to work. There's this meme Danny really likes, where it's like, you're loading a gun. Is this the meme? And they're like, why do I sound so old? And the ammo is theory, and then the thing that fires it is practice. And like, you have to know what you're doing. You have to have thought about it. But if you don't do it, then your thinking was almost useless. And it's through acting and reflecting that we learn how to change the world. So those are our pillars. Not all of those words are on the back of the hoodies. It's just kind of the highlights. That would be a really hilarious hoodie, actually. I'll tell Rob to get on it.
I want a hoodie. I want a hoodie. Folks,
Everyone wants a hoodie. And we do not sell them, but maybe we should. So now I want to talk about what's next, because I think I've explained everything else I wanted to explain. So what's next is that in 2 months we're going to be in 2025, and I know, like, in particular Robin has been really feeling this, because he was part of the, like, XR organisers group, and the one of those demands was net zero by 2025, and so that's quite like a significant date for him, definitely. But we're all feeling it, the, like, continued escalation of fascism and imperialism that's happening across the world, and the continued advancements and deterioration of the climate. So we have this one side of the, like, the world as it is, and the, like, massive violence and the huge grief that we're all feeling for where we've gotten to. But on the other side, there is, like, really powerful resistance that is rising right now. And I think that one of the, like, absolute privileges and things I'm hugely grateful for of being connected into the Prela network is that I'm hearing about these things and they're being framed as wins, and it feels like a win. So for example, the AES, which is the Alliance of Sahelian States, which, so the Sahel states are Mali, Burkina Faso and Niger, and over the last, how many years since the Malian, over the last 3 years, each of those states have had their own people's coup that has replaced the Western puppet governments with people's leaders. And they have, through that process, formed an alliance, and they are talking about things like doing away with the CFA franc, which is the French currency that basically, I don't want to get into this too much, but it's really important, because, like, countries that were ex-French colonies, particularly in Africa, they have something called the Franc-Afrique, which basically is all of their currency is the French currency, is the franc, and I'm trying to remember, I think it's like 70% of it is, I'll try and get the PDF to you on the way we get the, I think 70% of it is held by the French state, and they can only use like 15% of it at a time, and any more than that and they have to ask for permission. And this is the system that keeps these countries impoverished, because they are hugely rich in natural resources and in people, and in and in want to like liberate themselves. But then you have this, like, this system of continued economic violence and suppression. So yeah, these 3 countries are talking about potentially creating a shared currency between them. They're also talking about the, like, inherent violence of the borders that divide them. Like, the borders in Africa are just crazy. They were fucking drawn on a map 140 years ago at the 1884 to 1885 Berlin Conference.
Yeah.
Like, just the fucking violence. Anyway,
this is all brilliant, Roma. I'm just thinking, do you want to sum up a little, and we should go for questions, because there's quite a few interest in the chat in answering some questions. If people want to use the reactions, put their hands up. But really inspiring, everything you poured out.
Yeah. Sorry, I got on.
Brilliant. No, it's
a bit of a.
I love it. Being an activist 35 years, I'm buzzing from what you've said, to see the energy of the youth and the wisdom and the knowledge.
Mm-hmm.
Really need the elders and the youth sharing. What did you call it? Intergenerational sharing, that one. Back over to you for a bit of a summary, and then we'll go to questions, folks, if you want to put your hands up in the reactions button down the bottom.
Cool. I might just take 2 minutes to quickly run through the actual next steps, because I got too excited about the AES. Yeah. So what we're planning on doing is, I talked about the Educators Network, and I want to pool the knowledge of the different young radical educators that are working around the UK and beyond. We've got someone in Germany who wants to join, to like continually improve the ways that we're doing education. We're also recruiting for new core members. So if any of you know a young person, particularly one that is passionate about changing the world, ending capitalism, and radical education, please do send them our way. And we're also doing quite a lot of consolidation work, particularly this winter. So hopefully there should be soon like an ability for our educational resources to be collated and put up online, so that we are not like hoarding all of the like knowledge about how to run our workshops and all of those things, but then people can take them and use them in any context. So yeah, that's kind of the plan moving forwards. Due to our focus within Stroud the last year and a half, we've kind of stopped doing as much stuff on a national level. But I think now that we've done that some of that community building work, we're then moving into like back into that national space, wanting to like be really, really loud at that level, bring new people together. So yes, that is the RYSE. I'm hoping Danny thought that was a good enough explanation. It's always slightly intimidating doing one of these things like to someone that you work with. But yeah, finding this group and this team has been one of the things that has enabled me to be really, really brave, step into what I know the world needs me to be for where we are right now. And yeah, it is, education's so cool when you do it well. Anyway, that's me, guys.
Brilliant, absolutely amazing. That is really, really inspiring. That's actually one of the most inspiring ones I've heard for a while, which is all the more to reinforce a message that older people need to listen to younger people more, because when you give them the space, that's the kind of stuff they come out with. And they're deep thinkers, and they've done a lot of reading and a lot of research. As an activist for 35 years, I've learned a lot of things tonight about a lot of different movements, and love to see some more of those links put up. So if you have various questions, comments, or feedback, please use the reaction tab down the bottom, and we can see who's 1, 2, and 3 to answer questions. But just while you're formulating your questions there, just a little bit of feedback. I'd love to hear a little bit more at some point about the radical ancestry. I'm going to research the Highland folk school thing and civil rights. But just to say, originally our school system came from something called the Prussian school system, which was about sitting in rows, listening to one teacher, or just like in church, you know, rather than circular education tribals. And it trained people for the factory and also to march into battle in rows like the Prussian army. And that's partly what our school system has inherited. And we need to get back to the circular and learning from everyone. So, folks, if you want to link up more, check out RYSE. We're going to hopefully we've had some beginning chats about helping to find a building in Stroud. But if you've got a question, a feedback, a comment, anything on tonight you want to ask about, put your hands up, or raise a hand down the bottom would help. Let me just take the spotlight off.
Oh, and thank you so much, Phoenix, for like inviting us on talk. It's really, really fun getting to present this. So yeah, thank you so much for creating this space.
Well, we need these spaces. So there's a Helen, and then I think Habiba. Helen's hand up, and then Habiba's.
Yeah, I've actually stuck something in the chat, but a couple of years ago, I came across this chap called Fusni Traore. Have you heard of him?
No.
He set up Fridays for Future in Mali. And a couple of, I think they were a German and a French newspaper picked up on him and sort of ran stories like, you know, their equivalent of The Guardian. And he won a scholarship to learn how to be a youth leader. And it was in Tunisia. So he'd never left Mali in his life. So he took the opportunity of going a couple of weeks early to Tunisia. A lockdown hit. So he was stuck in Tunisia. By the time lockdown was over, there'd been a military coup in Mali and it wasn't safe for him anymore. So we sort of set up a fund and we managed to pay for him a flight to come to the UK, and he's claimed asylum, and he has now been granted asylum. But I don't know if you know much about people who are asylum seekers. He started off, they put him in somewhere in Devon, and then they moved him to Bristol, and then they moved him to wherever. And I tried to connect him with, sort of, in Bristol, there's, all sorts of climate groups on. And he went along, but because his English wasn't very good, and he probably came across a lot of old fogies like us instead of young people like him, he never felt really welcome. But it's got the most fabulous, so he's really good at writing and putting together picture articles. And I think, as far as I know, he's still in somewhere near Colchester. But it'd be great if you could connect up with him.
Yeah, that would be cool. Yeah. Do you want to
I'll put my email in, and you can email me if you like. Yeah.
Oh,
cool.
I think Habiba had one, Zoom user, and then Gavin.
Hi. Yeah. Can you hear me though?
Yes.
This is a few years ago. I think it was the Cat Hill one protest. I hooked up with a lady. This is the Chilean group, Pedagogia. Can you see this?
Oh, I'm afraid it's blurring because it thinks it's your background.
Cat Hill was a housing protest. Folks.
No, can't.
You see?
Protest
no.
Woods.
I'll try and take a picture of it and put it in the chat, because it's all about going back to love-based learning, and they've got government funding, and in Concepcion they actually have a school that's up and running in Chile, and they've got people coming into Europe with the format, and it's this lady Naomi, she is, but I'll put the picture of this. So this was 3 to 4 years ago, so I don't know how they're doing now. I kind of lost touch, but they were looking for volunteers. Yeah.
Okay, that's brilliant, Habiba. Thank you. Love-based learning. If you can find a web link and pop it in the chat, that's great as well. Thank you. Very good. Gavin, over to Gavin. I know you work with education and youth in Newham, wasn't it?
I used to be a teacher and a youth worker. I no longer do that. But I work with the community, and I really loved what Roma was saying about education, because I'm also a fan of Paulo Freire. And I've taken a lot of notes. This is my notebook. Can you see that? I did a sketch as well as take notes. And one of the notes I took was about ancestors of lineage, learning, and land. And I'd really like to see that kind of conversation continue. I think that one of the things I really believe in is having a conversational society, because if we do that widely enough, then we can change the narrative. So how can we link up all of these conversations we're having in different places and make them accessible to people where I am and where everyone else is? So that really is my question for everyone. But before I finish, I just like to say I like the mention of Sylvia Pankhurst, because she actually links quite a few of us together. I live in Newham, and Sylvia Pankhurst ran a food kitchen in Newham. And I also work with a group in Addis Ababa. And as you know, Sylvia Pankhurst died in Addis Ababa, and she was a supporter of Haile Selassie. Things come together. So I think that's all I'm going to say. But let's see how we can extend this conversation and link people into that conversation.
Powerful. Thank you, Gavin. It's really, really important. How do we link up all these conversations? So, folks, we've a lot of info tonight, but any others there? It doesn't have to be a question. It could be a comment. It could be a feedback. We'll probably wrap up soon because we're 5 past, and some people have got to go for teas and things. But any other? Nick, I don't know whether Nick Lunch wants to mention something. Your occasional video link up project, is it? Or
yeah, I guess. Hello. Thanks, Roma. Fantastic talk. Really, really inspiring. In so many ways. Yeah, and thanks for the comments, Gavin, especially. Yeah, that really resonated for me as well. The ancestors, 3 types of ancestors. Yeah, so Insight Share, I think we've had some connection with you in the early days, potentially. We certainly did some work with Extinction Rebellion Youth Solidarity. We had organized an event with our Maasai partners at UCL in, I think it was 2020, and live streamed a really amazing talk. And yeah, I'd just kind of love to support you any way we can, really. Participatory video is an amazing methodology that comes directly from the Paulo Freire lineage, and that's what we've been practicing for 25 years now across the world, and in the UK as well, of course, in our own backyard in Oxford and many other places. But my work has always been with Indigenous communities, helping them set up their own video hubs, video collectives, where they use participatory video to build intergenerational links, actually. So really, so much of your talk resonated for me, and with what's going on with the Indigenous video hubs that we support. It's called the Living Cultures Alliance. And I just wonder whether there's, room to link you up in some way with that network. We run a fellowship program for young Indigenous activists and women. It's called the Living Cultures Fellowship, training them in video. Yeah, so there's lots of links, I think, potential links. So thanks very much.
Yeah, just on that, if people have like specific projects or people that they want to link us up with, like I've tried to take notes of some of the ones that people talked about, and like, Nick, that sounds like really, really incredible work, and I haven't heard of participatory videoing, so I would be really interested to know what that is. But yeah, please do drop us an email. Our email is theryse@ryseup.net. Both rises are spelt differently. The first one is spelt with a Y, the second rise is spelt with an I. But yeah, please do contact us. Thanks, Danny. So reliable.
I'm going to chat to Nick afterwards, but Richard Herring and Nick, we're very good for you two to connect on the chat or something. Richard works with me on the resistance exhibition, learning from the past to create the future. 40 years of activism. We've done Undercurrents and Vision on TV.
Of course, I know Richard. Yeah, it's really nice to see your name here, Richard, and it's been many years, but yeah, lovely to reconnect.
Mary Ellen.
We took over Undercurrents' office way back in the 90s. We've always been kind of sister organizations, really, going way back.
Oh yes, that's right. I remember now. Yes. Yeah, good to see you.
Hi, Richard.
Big up, Richard. He's a legend.
Absolutely, yes.
Couldn't do the exhibition without him. A bit of love got to send over there to Richard. Big up, Richard. Big up, Richard. Mary Ellen and the Disabled People Against Cuts. Over to another legend. Mary Ellen, I love your question.
Thank you. I just wanted to express my gratitude and for such an inspirational, so full of knowledge, and yeah, I just been listening in and really enjoying it. it reminded me that I met a really lovely lass from Senegal at COP26, Awa Traore, and it'd be really good to be able to connect her up with you. So I'll try and do that. Yeah, met some amazing people at COP26. Maybe I can get some of them linked up with you. Speaking of which, at the Small World Spring and Summer Festivals, I'll be running the campaign space and speakers forum. So if you'd like to come and talk there or be part of the campaign space, that would be absolutely lovely, Roma. And anyone else who's interested as well, please get in touch with me. And speaking of Deepak, I don't know if any of you are aware, but next week on the 29th, there's going to be a vote on the assisted suicide bill. And we're all trying very, very hard to get all the MPs to vote against it. Because whatever our views on assisted dying itself, this bill is just too dangerous to be allowed through, and it would be really lovely to have all of your support for that. So if we can post something in the group chat on WhatsApp or wherever you can, Phoenix, that would be so helpful. It's something that's absolutely petrifying me. In Canada, it is now the 5th highest cause of death, the assisted suicide that they have in Canada, and that's where we're heading over here. It's literally a death sentence for disabled people and for poor people in Canada. If you can't afford your rent, if you can't afford to pay for your medical bills, they'll offer you suicide. It's got that bad.
Boys, the activists know so much more about what's really going on in the world. I had a long conversation there with Mary Ellen the other night about this, and it really opened my eyes to the other ends of things. Mary Ellen, send us some info and put something on the chat. Folks, I think we're coming towards the tail end of things here, and we do leave it on so people can have a chat and a conversation network afterwards. But I think we should come probably back to Roma for just parting comments then, and just unless I was going to test one little thing. It's good to call on people ever so often because I know some of their deeper knowledge. I don't know whether Linda's still awake because she's quite a few hours ahead of us, but Linda worked with the San Francisco Diggers, with the Black Panthers. I'm wondering if she still can hear us. Did you know anything or link with any of the Highlander folk school or civil rights movement stuff? Linda, can you hear us? No, I think she might be a bit late her end. All right, folks. But brilliant to call in the knowledge we got in the room. I've definitely we're working with the RYSE crew to look into helping them and a number of other groups get a building in Stroud, help them to. It's their building, they're autonomous to get on with it, but we're going to help them get over the line and try and get a space. And Councillor popped in today. Very love to see Councillor Nicola Day talking about Peterborough. I want to chat to us. Maybe we can get a space in Peterborough and get the youth and the elders together. All right. I'm going to come over to Roma for summary points and just anything at the end, and then we'll stop recording. We'll leave the chat on for 10-15 minutes. People want to chat afterwards with usual discussion and stuff. So without too much further ado, Roma, thank you so much. So inspired. Energy. We'll get out there, network it afterwards. You brought in so many movements, so much from young up to old to all ages, and circular education, not the hierarchical usual. Over to you for parting comments, feedback, or anything we could do to help each other. Over.
Well, just thank you again to Phoenix for inviting us on here and for everyone for listening and engaging. I'm really grateful and really humbled whenever people come to hear me speak. Thank you. And I think my parting thought that I want to leave you with is trust the young people around you, trust their leadership, listen to them, engage with them. Working with young people on education where I'm asking them for their experiences of the world is it's really incredible. In some ways it's really, really heartbreaking because again and again it's stories of not being listened to, of being bypassed, of being maligned. So my parting comment is listen and trust the young people around you and let them lead us. Yes, thank you.
Oh, as they say in the ceremony started at the weekend. All right, big love. Thank you, Ram. We'll stop recording there.
Bye.